So in this sum up lecture, we will go through the main aspect of production planning and control, which for our purposes are first analyzing which are the level of production planning decision, which are the main aspects related to production planning design and decision, and then analyzing some inventory management model to manage inventory to support the production plan. These are the objectives. So at the end of this part in class and through cases and through sum up lecture, you have to be able to understand how to evaluate these different master production schedule, calculate the economic order quantity to be reordered, and calculate the safety stock needs for a particular material. Let's start with production planning process and decisions. In particular, we have discussed in class that when we talk about production planning, it means answering which type of product needs to be realized, in which time horizon, how, so which material, and where, in which location, and which is the lot size. So in terms of how much. You need to realize. So the production planning has this question to be asked, and these questions are asked through three different levels of production planning. In particular, we have discussed about the fact that at the highest level, we have what is called aggregate planning, which is the definition, which brings to the definition of the master production schedule, which is according to the product that my supply chain has to realize when each product needs to be realized and in which quantity. Then, to support production, we need material. So according to the production plan that has been defined, we need to plan materials and so establish inventory management and material management policy to support production. And at the last node, instead, once we have production planning defined and material arriving, how to allocate production activities to our production system resources. And we have discussed why there is a cross here, because for the purpose of our course, we focus a lot of attention here, some aspect related to inventory management models here, while instead we are not doing this in this course. These aspects are typical of a course which is called Supply Chain Management 445, which is a course in Project and Supply Chain Management degree, where you will deal with scheduling production on the several production resources. So first of all, the first step is aggregate planning. Aggregate planning means designing what is called the master production schedule or the master production plan. So when we talk about master production plan, we are talking no other than something like that. So is in Excel, it's a document. It's also a piece of paper where for each product, A1, A2, A3, product in the family A, B1, product in the family B, C1, product in the family C, I'm saying how many units need to be realized in each period. So for example, if I take this cell, it means that in week 4, because our time horizon is week, we need to realize 12 units of product A3. So for this is valid for all the type of product. As we have discussed, in creating the production plan, different strategies are present. In particular, we have distinguished between the level strategy and the chase strategy. The level strategy is a plan that maintains a constant production output rate along the planning horizon, while instead the chase plan is a plan that instead tries to match more the demand coming from the market or the forecasted demand. And here we have seen an example. So that's our demand during the time period, but the first plan, which is called a pure level plan, try to satisfy and match this market demand using a production output which is constant over time, while instead a pure chase plan try to match the demand using a variable production rate that try to follow more the demand. In both cases, we have seen that we have stock out because there is a production capacity constraint at 32, which limit the possibility to for example, for a chase plan to produce 40 in period 3 and 4, those meeting the full demand request. So that's why you see this red unit, because it means that in some period you accumulate stock out, and then in the case of the pure level plan you can free in the next period. Instead, in the pure chase, keeping production in line with the demand, you have this maximum of 20 units of stock out that will be never solved in the future. But independently from that, the point is that we discussed that you are not happy when you have stock out, but also the fact that not always like pure level plan or pure chase plan are feasible. Usually what happens is that in practice, the production plan strategy are more level oriented or chase oriented. Among the infinite possibility that we have to satisfy with this demand with chase plan or level plan, we have designed these two. In particular, the first one is more mixed level based because you produced at two different production rate, 32 in the first 5 period and 10 in the second period. But in this way, you are able to solve your stock out issue, because in this case you produce 32, which is your maximum capacity, that allow you to make enough inventory to satisfy the demand peak that you have in 3 and 4, and then once the peak of the demand has been solved, you can produce a production rate which is equal to the average demand in the remaining period, in this case 10. So in this case it's not pure level because you have two different production rate, but it's still level based because the production rate are just two, so it is more level looking. Same here. In this case, you see that in the first 5 period, you are not producing exactly as the demand, because in the first period you are producing a little more to cope with the fact that in period 3 and 4 you are not able to satisfy the full capacity. So you produce 26, then 32. You have here inventory to satisfy the peak of the demand, and after this period you can start producing exactly what is asked by the market or what is forecasted. In this case, it is not pure chase because you are producing more than the demand in this period, but of course, if you have to choose between more level looking or chase looking, of course your choice will go for chase based. The point of this plan is that they solve your stock out problem that you would have had in the case of level chase pure strategy. The problem now instead, okay, now you have two alternative plan, one more mixed level, one more mixed chase. Which one do you select? And we discussed that we cannot answer this question without doing an economic evaluation of the two plans. So a mixed level plan or a mixed chase based or all the production plan have different costs associated to them. The prerequisite of each plan is that they need to be able to satisfy the market demand, which is correct because they don't have stock out. Once these, let's say, entry requirements is met, the decision between two different plans is based according to the cost that the overall plan are implying for the production system. So what you have to do in order to decide between 3 and 4 is do an economic evaluation. The economic evaluation is based on what? It's based on this type of cost. So you have to evaluate the production cost, the stock out cost, the setup cost, and the inventory keeping cost associated to each plan. How to calculate this type of cost? The production costs are the costs associated to producing the product. In particular, we have discussed about the fact that usually in the production cost for evaluating production plans, Fixed costs are usually excluded because fixed costs are phased independently of the type of production plan we are implementing. So usually what is included are variable costs, material, direct labor, direct expenses, and variable production overheads like energy, like water, like everything that could be variable according to the volume that we are producing. How we calculate production cost here. So I have production cost, which is $20 per unit. How many units I'm going to produce? 1,000 units. Total production cost $20,000, which is the multiplication of the two. Stockout costs instead are the costs associated with the fact that I'm not able to produce something and thus not able to satisfy the final demand. There are two cases. One is called the cost of back order. Stockout cost can be the cost associated with the fact that you are in a context, in a supply chain where your customer is able to wait more period for you to deliver the product. Of course, this waiting time is not free. You can give him a discount, you can give him an additional service like warranty, like extended or like further spare parts, whichever you can think it's an economic benefit linked to the fact that you want your customer to be happy, or a future discount on a future purchase, or whatever you can think is something that you are offering to your customer to cope with the fact that you had stock out. Okay, or a penalty in case, like for example, it's a project is delivered ahead of after the deadline, it's a penalty. So whichever you can think is a cost that you are experiencing for coping with your stockout problem is a cost of backorder. This is the good scenario, because in this case you are able still to sell something. The worst scenario is when the stockout is a lost sales. So in this case, the lost sales results in a loss which is equal to the loss margin. However, we say that whenever you have a stock out, you can have a loss also on other orders, and you can also loss on brand reputation at the eyes of the customer. So usually we don't use the loss margin, which is the price minus the variable cost, but most of the companies say that the stock out is the full, the loss of the related to the stock out is the full loss on price, just to consider this intangible effect. Of course, for each period you have the number of units that you have in stock out multiplied by the stock out cost, and you calculate this. What is referring instead of setup cost? Setup cost, we have discussed about the fact that setup cost incurred every time we realize a different type of product, so the product entering the machine is much different, or we change the production rhythm of your system. Setup is everything that is needed to reconfigure your system to produce different product and or a different rhythm. It is not changing the tool, introducing new resources, changing materials, adding one operator on the line. So whichever you can think, it costs you to reconfigure the production system. And it has two components. One is expensive. So whenever you have to do setup, again, you have to change the tool, you have to make maintenance, you have to reconfigure the line, introducing new equipment, introducing new operator. These are expensive. But also, whenever you do setup, you experience opportunity cost. Your production system is stuck, so it means that you are not able to produce. If you are not able to produce, you are losing productivity. This is an opportunity cost. Independent for that, usually the setup cost is expressed through a number, like for example, $1,000 per setup. This value includes both of these, okay? So you just have to multiply the value, the cost of the setup, multiply by the number of setup that are included in your plan. So if your number of setup in this case is 3, you are spending $3,000 in setup. Finally, a cost is also related to the fact that by producing a plan, you generate inventory. The more or less inventory, the more or less cost. We have discussed about the fact that having inventory has storage cost, financial cost, and depreciation and obsolescence cost. So cost of space, cost of opportunity of tying up the capital, and the fact that putting something in inventory can be subjected of loss of value. Usually this cost, inventory keeping opportunity cost, is expressed to a percentage, so for example 7%, and this percentage is applied to the unitary value of the stock. This is the example. So if my cycle stock is 100 unit and the stock value is $50 per unit and the cost of maintaining stock is 5%, how much is the inventory value? The inventory value is the value of the inventory of the stock, 50 units multiplied by the average unit I have in stock. So 50 multiplied by 100. So this is, remember, the asset value, of your inventory, so the one that you find opening the balance sheet of your company. Instead, if you want to calculate the inventory keeping cost, which is in your income statement, so it contributes to your the difference between your revenue and cost to generating your profit, the inventory keeping cost is made by the cost of maintaining stock 5% multiplied by the inventory value, 50 multiplied by 100. So how much does it cost you? How much is the operational cost of keeping inventory? $250 income statement cost, which reduce your profit. Now, if this is clear, let's see how this applies to our example. So we have a floor plan, and these are the data. $100 per unit production cost. Cost of maintenance is 7% a year. Stockout cost is $200 per unit, and setup costs are $1,000 per setup. Plan 1. How many units I have to produce? 260. How much are the production costs? 260 multiplied by $100 per unit, 21,600. How many setup do we have to do? 0, because the production rate is equal to in the time horizon. Of course, here the hypothesis is that I don't have to do a setup at the beginning of the period, but this will be like an hypothesis carry on for all the plans, so this cost will be indifferential. How much is the stockout cost? If you look at that, the maximum stockout is reached in period 5 when I have 58 units. Okay, then I'm able to like solve them, but the cost of the stockout are 58 units multiplied by the $200 per unit, $11,600. How many inventory do I have? 2 plus 4, 6 unit per year. Remember that even if this 4 is made by the 2 in the previous period and the 2 increased in this period, you still have to count this unit because the capital is still there. So it doesn't matter if these are the same unit that you have in the previous period. You have capital in 2 units tied there, occupying space and being subjected to obsolescence. So you need to sum up the inventory even if like this inventory was already counted in the previous period. So it's a 60 unit per year. The stock holding cost is 6 units multiplied by $100 per unit multiplied by 0.07, $42. If you sum up everything, you see that the final cost of this plan is $33,242. Let's go to plan 2. Plan 2 produce 196 units. So the cost is $19,600 per production. You do 5 setup. Why? 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So it's $5,000 multiplied by 1,000. And the stockout cost is how much? 20 units that are never sold multiplied by $200 per unit is $4,000. The inventory level is 0 unit because you don't have inventory, and the stock holding cost so is $0 because you don't have inventory to be kept in stock. The total is 9,600 plus 9,000, it's 28,600, which is slightly more than the previous one. Then let's switch to the mix strategy. This is the mix level based plan. So, first of all, how much does it produce? 230. How much are the production costs? 23,000. because it's 230 units multiplied by $100 per unit. How many setup you have to do? 1 here, when you change the rhythm from 32 to 10. How much are the setup costs? 1 setup multiplied by 1,000, $1,000. You have stock out? No, because you don't see any red value. How much is the inventory level? If you sum up these, 16, 30, 24, 16, 12, 6, you find that the total unit are 1056 unit. How much is the opportunity cost? 7% per year. How much is the dollar value of inventory? Is $100 per unit. So this is the inventory value. This is the inventory keeping cost, 1092. If you sum up everything, you find $25,092, which is again slightly lower than the previous best one. Finally, mixed level based, mixed chase based. Production costs are 2060 unit multiplied by $100 per unit, 21,600. How many setup do you have to do? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, multiplied by how much? $1,000 per setup, $5,000. Do you have stock out? No, because there are no reds. Do you have inventory? Yes, in the previous 4 period. 46 unit. How much does it cost you to keep inventory? 7%. 7% of what? The dollar value of each unit of inventory, $1,000. So $336, 26,336. So which plan we are going to select? Not this one. Besides the fact that it's very expensive, but because it has stock out, so it doesn't satisfy the demand request. Not this one, because even if it's cheaper than the previous one, it has stock out. You keep with these two and you select that one that is more economically convenient. So the mixed level based plan, which will be implemented because it minimizes the total cost of production.